Good evening, witches. It is Wednesday. What do we do on Wednesday? We do the Witches Movie Coven. Welcome, everyone. My name is Patty Negri. I am one of your hosts. You might know me from The Witching Hour, my regular podcast, from different TV shows, including Ghost Adventures and Portals to Hell, a lot of YouTubers, the kids, or from Black Phillip, because he's with me almost everywhere I go. But let me pass, or from my book, Old World Magic for the Modern World, or my newest book, thank you, Heather, Doll Craft, all about haunted dolls and magical puppets. But enough about me. Let me pass you on to my beautiful co-host, starting with the lovely Heather Green.
Hi, I am Heather Green. I am the author of Lights, Camera, Witchcraft. It's a critical history of witches and witches and witchcraft in American film and television. I am also a journalist, and I cover things about the occult and witchcraft, as well as an editor at Llewellyn Worldwide, working with authors like Patty and many others who write about witchcraft and the occult. So that's me. Happy to be here tonight.
Thank you very much. And your hair looks fabulous. You are definitely replacing Jason tonight with the curly locks. Beautiful. And moving in right next to you, the wonderful Richard Lale.
I am Richard Lale. Richard Lale is one name, not two. If I were just Richard, I'd be a... Jason is not here to laugh. So yes, I'm a psychic medium. I used to be a psychic small, but I gained some weight. That being said, before we go too much further, I'm also known at Ghost Adventures, the University Magicus. I'm well known, but let's go over to our Mystery Control, because over on Mystery Control, if you like, you can sleep with me. You can get into Patty's panties. You can read our quotes. You can read our books. You can get some bro witch things. Speaking of books, we now have a bookstore. We have Jason Mankey's books. We have Heather Green's books. We have Patty Negri's books. We have Jenny's books. We have Thumper Forge's books. We have books. So right over there, Mr. Control, also north of Ordinary. This is a pre-launch party. This is something that you really want to check out. Personal friend of the show.
Thank you very much. Yes, check it out, Mystery Control. Now let's go down to sporting a lovely new pair of glasses, Courtney Buckley.
That's me, Courtney Buckley, ghost bait on Scared and Alone. To distract me from how angry I am at what's going on in life in general, I also will be heading over to mysterycontrol.com, because they threw that up there, that Sue's book there, that we're doing a pre-order for at mysterycontrol.com. If you pre-order it, you get a signed postcard. And when I tell you that Sue is probably the most badass lady that I have ever witnessed in all of my life, that's an understatement, and I want to be best friends with her. So I will be pre-ordering her book, because I need all the Sue merchandise that I can get. So check out mysterycontrol.com.
Thank you very much. And as you can see, we do not have the lovely Jason Mankey tonight, but we are so excited to have, for the second time, Jenny C. Bell. Welcome, Jenny. Thanks for coming back.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm happy to fill in for Jason, but definitely don't have that flair for storytelling, unfortunately. I am excited to be here. I am the author of 2 books, not 10, Spirit Crystals and Divergent Witchcraft. And yeah, excited to talk about this film. I'd never heard of it until like 2 days ago. So
thank you so much. And the film we are doing, we did a switch. For all of you we told to watch another movie last week. We will do that movie at another time, I'm sure, since we all watched it. But we've switched it this week to We Have Always Lived in the Castle. So I just watched it for the first time. I'd never heard of it either. Hopefully you guys all did and you got our message. But if not, just in case you didn't, Richard Lale, do you have a biased, quick synopsis, but complete synopsis of this lovely film?
This one is going to be hard for me to be unbiased, because I don't fangirl very much.
Sorry.
I know. I love Shirley Jackson. I was introduced to Shirley Jackson when it was a lad in school, and there was the lottery, which of course we could talk about that later on. And then of course what became quickly my favorite novel was The Haunting of Hill. And The Haunting of Hill House has had so many incarnations. 1963 in film. It had 1999, and then it had a series. So that one is sort of the most long-lived one. But the memory that I have of The Haunting of Hill House was my mother was an avid reader. And by her bedside table, she had The Haunting of Hill House. And she had read the first opening about how some houses were born bad. We're not here really to talk about The Haunting of Hill House. We're actually here to talk about We Have Always Lived in the Castle. I will say, as a writer, Ms. Shirley Jackson, knows people. She knows the dark side of people, but she also understands how to layer a space and make the space a character in and of itself, too. So, as you saw in The Haunting of Hill House, the house was a symbol for souls being trapped inside and for fear. In We Have Always Lived in the Castle, the house becomes a symbol for stagnant lifestyle and closed doors, closed minds, closed windows, a blockade against the outside world. So, having given a little bit of the pretext, the story of the actual film is based on her book, We've Always Lived in the Castle. And the story is about a couple of young ladies, Mary Catherine and Constance. Mary Catherine and Constance, Maricat is how she's addressed. Maricat and Constance are sisters who live with their invalid uncle and a cat named Jonas. They live in a recluse away from a little town in the middle of nowhere, a town that was hit by the Great Depression, the end of coal mining, and poverty. Now, the Blackwoods have always lived in this house. They have lived here for generation upon generation in this little town. And the house used to be more open. The Blackwood Forest has a driveway that circles through the entire little town. And it used to have an outlet that would go right down Main Street, and then it would go off the highway. And people would actually take their driveway into the town until about 5 years before. 5 years before, a tragedy struck the family. It was the death of mother, father, and in the book, baby brother, auntie, and paralyzed the uncle. Because of this, the town blamed the older sister, Constance, for poison. And so she sort of was acquitted, and she withdrew into the safety and comfort of her own home and sent her sister out to do the weekly shopping. But they were very regimented. On Mondays, they do this, and on Tuesdays, they do that. In the book, it talks about how that on Thursdays, they climb the ladder and they dust the wedding cake molding in mother's pretty yellow sitting room. And everything is fine. The one girl, she is autistic coded, and she has a special interest in witchcraft, magic, potions, poisons. And Mary Cat, will go into the village for Constance and get the weekly rations. Well, one day she forgets to check her wards, her magic spells. She forgets to check the things that she's buried. And unfortunately for her, a strange wind blew. And that was the appearance of a long-lost cousin whom had heard about the tragedy of these two young ladies and how very rich that their parents were when they died. So this man decides that he's going to go up to Blackwood Manor and he's going to sort of present himself and then take Constance away and lock Uncle Julian into an asylum and probably Mary Cat as well. And Constance has been so isolated and so shielded and so lonely that any amount of human interaction it's refreshing, even if it is toxic. Well, Mary Catherine does not want this uncle, this cousin rather, to be here. He has disrupted everything. He has taken away everything from her. And so she does her magic spells, which it ends up by being, yes, she's buried his things, but she's also set the house on fire to sort of rid her home of this toxic energy that is destroying her family. Well, the house is on fire. So what are you going to do when you have an old house that's full of velvet and satin and silk and wool and books and leather? What are you going to do? It was a tinderbox. And there is no phone, because the phone, the two girls were tired of the harassment that they got from the village. And so this cousin decides that he's going to go running back to the town and bring back the fire brigade. And he is successful. He is absolutely successful in bringing back the fire brigade, and they put the fire out. Well, it turns out that before the incident that took away the family, Constance was flirty with the fellow who would become the police chief. He had lost his car, he lost his family, he lost his love, he lost his job, and then he was bitter. So he, as a fireman and a professional, put the fire out and then turned and incited the crowd into violence. It was already a tinderbox, and he picked up a rock and he smashed it through one of the windows. And like rabid dogs, the villagers began to throw rocks. They began to be marauders. In the book, they topple over the harp that Constance played. In the film, she plays the piano, but in the film, they throw her harp out the window, which is what the mob mentality does, is to destroy art and beauty and things that are they just destroy. And so Constance and Maricat have escaped to the moon, which was, in the book, it was the old hunting lodge behind the house, which in this one doesn't exist, but it is her safe space under the tree. And when she's on the moon, they are safe. And they go back into the home, and it's all burnt out. And so they start putting things back in order, because that is who they are. That is what they do. We are Blackwoods. We put things in order, which is what Maricat says at the beginning and the end. And they put things in order, and then the townspeople begin to realize how evil, how stupid, how vulgar, how vile, how disgusting, how displaced their hatred was. And they apologize the only way they know how, with food, with supplies. They'll knock on the door and they will say, well, I broke one of your chairs, and, I'm really sorry about that, as if the chair had anything more than a symbol of destruction or a symbol of taking what wasn't theirs. And then, much like in the book, the cousin comes back, and he is trying to get into the house. Well, in this one, he does get into the house, and he attacks Constance in his rage, and then Mary Catherine takes a snow globe, and she puts his lights out permanently. She puts him to sleep. And then they live in the castle, and in the book, the vines have grown over it, and the old house begins to look like that of a castle. In this one, it doesn't give you that much time. In the book, the cousin comes in, and he's trying to come back and get the money, but then his driver is like, come on, leave it alone. The girls, they've gone through enough, and they drive off. But not in the film, which I actually think is a better ending. That is the spoiler. That is everything. And before I go too much further, that's it.
Thank you. Thank you. That was one of your more lengthy, involved, beautiful synopsis. There might be a little bit more information we could get, though, so we'll turn it over to Heather Green.
Yeah, let me go through a few things. First, it's a 2018 movie directed by Stacy Passon, and it was written, obviously, Shirley Jackson, the original book, which I'll talk about in a second, assisted by another writer who adapted it for the screen. The budget wasn't available, so I don't know how much it made, but it was, I think the I think the box office was like 80,000, no, 80 million. But I don't know in relation to the budget, which hadn't been reported. So I believe it was reasonably successful. I think it has mixed reviews based on whether you've read the original books or not, is what I'm sensing from people. It's not, it didn't smash things. We didn't see it at the Academy Awards. It's kind of like Jenny said, she never heard about it until recently. And that's, I think that's more common. I don't think you're alone in that, Jenny. So basically, let's go to the original book, because I think that's the first key piece you need to know about. Richard Lale already did a beautiful job mentioning Shirley Jackson, tribute to her, and we've seen some pictures. So this came out in 1962. It was released. This is her final work before her death, and we'll talk about that in a second. And it is considered her masterpiece. We Have Always Lived in a Castle. However, this was not her first book. She started after school as writing for the New Yorker, which, if you know or read the New Yorker, you know how prestigious that is. She married someone also who worked for the New Yorker, or who wrote for the New Yorker. She did other books like and I can't read my heading. Road Through the Wall. Is 1948, The Haunting of Hill House, which we've already mentioned, 1959, and several other books, a number of other books, plays, etc. But she unfortunately tragically died in 1948. She had a heart condition or a heart attack, and she died peacefully in her sleep, luckily. But it was tragic. Not 1948, at the age of 48. Sorry. I scribbled really fast today, so my notes are a little chaotic. And The Haunting of Hill House is considered one of the best ghost stories ever written. And again, a top novel, okay? Top world class. And this was voted the best book in 1962. So she is well respected for her storytelling, for everything Richard Lale has already mentioned. And these books have been turned into movies, several of them. We've already saw the Haunting, which is The Haunting at Hill House. We have 1963, 1999. There was a TV miniseries. I believe we're going to review that film sometime this year. I think it's on the list. The Lottery was turned into a movie, 1969 and 1996, a TV movie. The Bird's Nest was called Lizzie in 1957, plus we have what we're looking at today. So you have, she has a legacy that stayed with us and has come to film for us to enjoy if we're not readers. Let's mention a few of the actors here. Taissa Farmiga, she is Maricat. I know her from The Gilded Age immediately because I love that show, and I was watching it recently, binge watching it. So of course the face is very familiar. She was also in The Nun 2 and a number of other movies. As I said, most recently, you probably recognize her from The Gilded Age. Alexandra Daddario, we have done Mayfair Witches. Of course, she was in that, one of the witches in that TV series. She's also in, I think, the second season of White Lotus. You might recognize her from that, as well as Percy Jackson Olympians, and that was 2010. She's been around. She's been in a lot of stuff. Those are just the most recent. And if you haven't watched White Lotus, get on that, because it's a fantastic show. Crispin Glover, who doesn't love Crispin Glover? Of course, I see him and I immediately think of Back to the Future because I'm of that age. But he was also in People versus Larry Flynn, Charlie's Angels, Alice in Wonderland, and a host of other films. I'm sure we all have our favorites here and there. There he is again. So he is Uncle Julian, and a fabulous actor that is very recognizable. Sebastian Sam, of course, very recognizable from being the Winter Soldier. There he is. Probably his most recognizable role. He was also in The Apprentice. I'll leave it at that, and a number of other films. Sebastian Stan is also very popular and very recognizable right now. Paula I can't read my handwriting. Malcolmson, it's probably up here. Is it there? Malcolmson. She plays Helen. I couldn't figure out what her accent was here. She's originally from Ireland. She was in Green Mile, AI. You may recognize her as Katniss's mother from the Hunger Games series of movies. Tombstone, she's been in a number of things. So those are some of the actors you see, recognizable faces, probably from recent shows that you've watched or movies. This is a really quick one. Hold on, that was number 3. So number 4, really quick one. This was filmed in Ireland, in a couple of cities. It was not filmed in the United States, but it is supposed to take place in a small New England village. Now, if you guys have ever heard me talk about witch films and you ever hear me talk about spooky films and haunted films, Hollywood loves that setting because it sets the tone. It cues the audience. And when the camera comes down over that town, that is right there. There it is. That's what they're telling you. That's the way the Witches of Eastwick open. That's the way, gosh, I can't even think of other ones. They come and swoop in. I think Hocus Pocus may start like that. If there's a witch or even a haunting, you either get it set in a small New England town or New Orleans. Those are the 2 first places, or sometimes it's like a Savannah setting too. Sometimes we get that kind of spooky gothic Savannah setting, but that is it. And so that's what you have here immediately right from the beginning. They're doing it. I know Richard Lale said a random town that's depressed. The movie expressly is telling us this is set in New England. And apparently the town's name was Sherryville to honor the author.
Oh.
So that's a little set. Now, number 5 is a little bit more difficult because I think the story she wrote had what I'm about to say implied in it, but the movie punched it hard. And there's a reason the movie punched this topic and this theme hard. It did it because this was created in 2018 in the wake of the Me Too movement. Okay. So what you find here, and I didn't read the book, from everything I was reading, is the book suggested what I'm about to talk about, but the movie again punches it up on purpose. And this coincides with a lot of what I write about in the last chapter of my book. So if you read that last chapter, you'll know what I'm talking about. That witch films, and this is definitely qualifies as a witch film, they're accused witches, are often accused because they've been put upon by men. And in the 2010s, we had a lot of that, where the woman is put upon by men, to put it in a light way, and then turns and reacts against the man, commits a crime against the man, and then, of course, is demonized. Maleficent is the first one that comes to mind, not the cartoon, the one that Disney did, but there's a ton of them. You had Salem, the TV show. Over and over again. This is the story of the witch. This movie is the precursor to a witch movie. This movie, at the end, if you look at that, that is the precursor to the 2 girls becoming Maleficent, to becoming Hocus Pocus witches. Think about what happened to Hocus Pocus witches when we get their backstory. Okay, so that's what you're seeing here play out. The original, I was interested to see if Shirley Jackson had a history of abuse in her life. And someone suggested that she did have trouble in this area with her husband. And there could have been some incidents of marital rape. And that she was, some of that came out in her books. Some of why she dealt with things the way she did. And so clearly it was embedded here in the book, but in the movie it's clear. And I put some things, if you notice, when the cousin shows up, he starts to play the role of father. There's even a point where they're dancing and the song playing is Daddy's Come to Stay. When Mary Cat is being attacked, she's yelling, Daddy, stop. Daddy, stop. She's not saying her cousin's name. She's saying, Daddy, stop. And then, of course, we learned that Candace and possibly Mary Cat had been abused by their father. And she says, thank you for saving me. And this is, like I said, it's punched up to the point where you start to get the revelation of that ending becomes very powerfully emotional and changes the film. It's not a horror film then. This is a survivor's film. And that castle was first the trap for that pain. They were trapped there with it. But then it became the cage that protected them. And they will stay there. And it's a survivor's film. And, their relationship with the house is very interesting because it was their trap that kept them as victims. But now glued to it. So we can talk about that thematically. And the more I talk about this, the more I'm going to start tearing up because it became very powerful. Anyway, so I'll leave it at that because I think we get the point. This movie falls in line with the witchcraft films of this era. And whether it strays from the original book or not, as a standalone film, it very powerfully fits into the genre. And we can talk more about that theme if we want to, but that is what you need to know about these films.
It does stray, but it's not. It's a faithful adaptation, and even the things that they did to change it actually make sense in a film that don't make sense in a book. So I love the book and I love the film.
Well, I will say that if they did stray, they really stayed tight to the storytelling. And she's a phenomenal storyteller. That I know, even though I haven't read all the books like you have. She's a phenomenal storyteller. And so you could see how tight this story is. So they must not have gone too crazy with it.
I would,
and I understand some of those, themes are actually very subtly written into the original, but they're not but that was 1962. It was a different world. And to even speak of rape or abuse by family members or by men or anything in 1962, it was
heavily implied in the book.
Yeah. So, it's the same reason Bell Book and Candle is masked. It had to be masked to be able to express your express living in the gay community in New York and in the 50s. It had to be masked. So I'm assuming this was masked as well. Topics that could not be spoken of. So
Courtney had something to say.
Oh, yeah. I am locked in, and I now need to talk because something very interesting just happened. And Heather, that was really validating to hear you talk about that because full disclosure to everybody, life happened this week. I did not get a chance to sit down and watch this movie fully. I watched about 20 minutes to start with, and then maybe 30 more after that. So I came here just to wing it, obviously, and just to be present. But something happened when I was watching that movie, and it's something that happens to me all the time. And it's like my least favorite game to play. So as a survivor of sexual abuse, it was my dad. I sometimes see that in other people, or I see that in very subtle ways in movies or in characters or whatever. It just gives off the vibes. Like I cannot explain it. I cannot anything. So I didn't get to anywhere in the movie where it talked about this. It was literally, were they sisters? They were sisters.
They're sisters.
Yeah. Again, barely understanding this. It was the way in their interactions with each other. It was in the way that the girl just was behaving around the house. And then I felt uneasy and I couldn't put my finger on why. And then the uncle showed up. And as soon as the uncle showed up and her reaction to, I think she was holding the cat, and him coming near her while she was holding the cat.
Oh, the cousin.
Sorry, not uncle. Yeah.
The uncle was living with them.
Right. So the cousin comes and she's holding the cat, and he comes up to her and says, like, we're all three of us going to be very good friends or something. And her face, and I was like, I can't try to watch any more of this right now. Like, I am not in the mental headspace to consume this, because whether or not this is what actually
father.
What?
He looks like father.
Yeah.
Right. But like, it was like, I didn't know that, like this. So that's why that was very validating, Heather, because it's a game that I play a lot. And a lot of times it's, is this real? Am I actually, like, is this the point of this? Are you telling me that this was happening, or is this my trauma? Mm-hmm. And it's hard. It's hard because that's what that trauma does to you, is it makes it so that your reality is no longer reality. Like, you can't tell the difference. And when that happens, it's different than being triggered, but it brings you back to that place when you don't know what's real and what's not, and you don't know what's going on, or how to get out of it, or how to whatever. It brings back all those feelings, and it's very hard. It's almost harder when it's not intended, and then it's just that like embarrassment within yourself that you are seeing this everywhere you go, and God, like I just want to let go of this, and I don't want to have to think about it anymore, and why is it that I see this everywhere I go? But it's super validating when it's real, and then it's like, see, I knew, like I knew, and that a credit to the writing and the actors and everything else, that I didn't get to anywhere that was implied, or didn't hear it, or didn't whatever, like I did not consume anything anywhere where that was implied, and I still knew, my heart knew. So it is a hard topic to talk about, but I'm glad that you brought it up, Heather, because that was, I don't know if you saw my face when you said that. I was like, oh my God, like, yes, thank you, because I was right.
That may be why I failed to mention in my synopsis, the tragedy that had befallen was that the parents, the brother, the uncle, the auntie had been poisoned with arsenic in the sugar bowl. And Maricat was the one who actually had poisoned her family. They had sent her to bed. She was a girl of about 12 or 13 years old. They had sent her to bed without dinner. Now, everything in her flashback scenes, she sees mom and dad, and father is telling her, "Oh, you're a good girl. Isn't she a good girl? She deserves everything, anything she wants." And mother says, "Yes, anything she wants." And even that gives that sort of, there are secrets that are happening. That's why he's telling her she gets whatever she wants, but then he treats her so cruelly. And then Uncle Julian, in his state, he survived the toxins, but it left him disabled. He keeps recalling, well, my uncle or my brother and his wife were fighting that night, and you will not speak to ladies that way. You will not do that. You will not speak to women that way. And Maricat put the poison in the sugar bowl because Constance never eats sugar. And then what you don't see in the film that she discusses in the book is that the second that everyone had dropped dead, Constance took the sugar bowl and emptied it out, washed it out. And when they asked, well, why did you do that? She says, there was a spider. I saw a spider. There was a spider in there. Because she knew she was being, they were being abused. There was the spider.
Yeah.
Yes.
And she said at the end of the movie, she looked at Maricat and said, "Thank you for saving me."
Yeah.
And you know what? For a very long time, because I was a kid when it happened to me, for a very long time, I wished that there had been, like, to put it nicely, someone to poison the sugar for me. But then I grew up to become the person that does that. That saves. I do that for myself now. So, don't, like, it is what it is. I don't tell this to be a sad story, but because it's a connection, and I think that piece of it is, heck yeah, rock on, poison that sugar. Like, someone's got to do something.
And hence the beginning of a witch story.
Yeah, and hence the beginning of my witch story. So I don't want to hear about it if anyone complains about me hexing, because we all brought it upon ourselves, obviously.
And Maricat is a witch. I think she's also coded with autism, because she's very much in the book. She's very rigid in her movement, and she goes down through the town and she plays this game in her head, which is one of the things I truly miss from the film. And she says, okay, I have checked all of my wards. I have done all of my magic spells. I have made certain that nothing can get into my house when I am gone. And then she steps out from the gate and she says, okay, I have closed the gate, advance 1 round. Oh, here comes the house on the corner where the children will scream at me, lose a turn. And then she gets to the market and everyone is, they're sort of afraid. And she hears them sort of muttering. And then she hears the one woman whisper something about, oh, don't look at that Blackwood girl. And so she turns around and in her mind, she imagines them dead. What also you fail to realize in the film, as per the book, is that when she goes back, the 2 boys that harass her the most, that was the house that used to belong to her mother. Her mother is from that village. And that is the house where her mother used to live. And it talks about how that there's an old wash bin on the front porch, and there's a car in the driveway that sits on blocks. And she turns and she says, can't you do something about those mean boys? And she imagines, well, when my mother lived here, it must have been a very pretty house. And so her mother is from that village, and she copes as much as she can. And then even in the way that her special interests are on magic and witchcraft and poisons, and the way that she sort of doesn't understand, she can be very cold in her emotions, because it's just an outward sign of autism. And so as someone who is on the spectrum, there are elements that I truly understand Maricat, even down to the witchcraft, which is her intuitive magic is sort of how I do my magic.
Yeah, I see. Again, it's got to be the writer, the characters, the development, the complexity. I don't have a scary background of abuse or anything like that, but you felt it, you saw it, you had to put into your head where it went and why it went and everything. So it kept me. I didn't fall asleep. There's my. I didn't fall asleep watching it at 3 a.m. So that was really refreshing to me. Of many of the films that we watch, the characters, the complexity, and the humanity, and what they had to do and go into. Trippy. I don't. The whole style. It was like a painting. The whole thing was
Yeah.
like a painting.
Color was beautiful.
Yeah. So somebody else jump in. That's all I wanted to jump in right there.
Sure, yeah. I wanted to talk a little bit about the ending, but before I get to that, I put on my literature major hat. I was like, I'm just gonna put this film on while I edit, and then like 10 minutes in, my husband's like, I need to leave because it's distracting me, because he's already sucked in. He's supposed to be working. I had to close my computer, and I was like, this is Shirley Jackson. Like, they never read the book, but I'm like watching this. I'm like, this has got to be a Shirley Jackson story. Like, immediately I felt like it's her writing. And then so I'm on my phone. I'm like, like it was just such like a, okay, like I knew. And I do have it on hold at the library. I can't wait to read it. So as you're explaining it, Richard Lale, I'm like, oh, like you're making me want to read it all the more. So can't wait. It's coming. I'm going to read Wuthering Heights because of that movie. And then totally going to read this one next.
I've read this one like 4 times and I still,
yeah. Well, I used to teach The Lottery. That was one of my favorite short stories to teach, because I was teaching it at the time when most of the kids had read The Hunger Games, which is so similar. And they'd be like, wait, like which came first? I'm like, Shirley Jackson, baby. Like she came first. And so then they would really get into her. They like loved, it was like fun too when you get to teach something scary. Like I love teaching her, and I love teaching Poe because like it gave me a reason to be like myself, really. But yeah, so I want to say like it really sucked me in. Part of why I think I never heard of it is because it stars women and it's a women's story. Just going to say, I feel like that happens all the time. I'm like, as a woman who's raising a woman, I'm constantly like trying to find films, and have been doing so since she was a little girl, where women are the main characters, where women don't need rescuing. And it's hard. There's a whole book called Cinderella Ate My Daughter. And it's all about that. And it's about trying to raise like a feminist girl and trying to like not do all Disney princess, and made me turn a lot to anime. So that's probably why I didn't hear of it. It's a women's story, and that often just gets like no awards, no praise, doesn't get pushed out as often. And so I was pleasantly surprised by like how well it was done. But I did want to bring up the ending. So the house, as you explained, like goes up in flames, right? So in witchcraft, we use fire a lot to purify. And then they clean everything and they both wear pure white. And I think that I was like, ugh, like I loved the ending to that because it was unexpected. Like you think they're going to don black and maybe be mourning their uncle because that's what they're supposed to do, or whatever. So I wanted to bring it up to everybody that like saw the ending. Like, why do you think that they chose to have them wear white? And also, is that in the book?
It doesn't describe what they wear at the end, but I think it's a wonderful addition. The house burns, absolutely, but it doesn't talk about their wardrobe when they're cleaning the house. So I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting choice. I think it's a starting fresh, almost the same way. And I keep going back to Maleficent because there's so many stories at this point that are exactly like this theme, where the women are abused and then they go through a transformation and then they start their life fresh. Now, of course, Maleficent goes from brown clothing through into the black true witch form is as her new beginning. But here you have white. White is a color of ritual in many religions, and also purity in Christianity and main culture. So I think you have a bunch of stuff. I think it's interesting. I think their use of color and costuming is phenomenal throughout. If you notice, Mary Cat is always in sort of patterned and muted colors, whereas Constance is always in these bright colors, setting her off, greens. You have so much color. But the ending I have mixed feelings about, because you have this empowerment, yet you have the house as the trap still. This is the place that trapped them into their abuse. So are they trapped there and they feel like they can't get away because that's sort of being attached to your abuser type of situation? Or is it that it's now been burned and now they're reclaiming the space?
I think it's more that one, because in the book it expressly talks about how the time goes on and the vines have overtaken the home, and now it looks like a castle that she always wanted.
Now they're Elphaba.
Mary Cat says she always wanted to live in a castle, and the house was a mansion, but it was a typical Victorian mansion, not like this Georgian mansion that's in the film, which is definitely very very Irish or no, that it was in the book a Victorian mansion with a tower, the mansard roof. Like it's so American, imperialistic. And then when the roof is gone, it and the vines have grown, it looks like a castle. Yeah. And so Mary Cat, in her mind, she says, we've always lived in this castle. So I think it's a way of reclaiming. And then the fact too that she doesn't have to, they spent so much time dusting the crown molding and dusting the little Asian figurines on the mantle and repairing the upholstery in the yellow that had been time worn. And then every Wednesday, the woman from town would come who was friends with the mother. Like it was this ritual. It was the same thing that trapped them. And when the roof opened up, so did the girls. Now they found who they wanted to be. And I will say, I liked in the movie that they kill the cousin because he had spent so much time. This is what I want. This is what I want. I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll take it. There was no way that someone with that drive to take something that didn't belong to him would just give up and walk away.
Yeah.
And I feel like that they knew expressly the only way that we can end this is to end the line right there.
Yeah.
I also have to say, although I didn't see the ending, but from the way that everybody's describing it, like from a trauma standpoint, if you're lucky enough, and if you're lucky enough, if the cards have been drawn right, if you do the work in the way that the work needs to be done in your brain, whatever it is, there can be that moment where you have that I just burn my whole world down and I reclaim myself. And and you take that power back away from the abuse or from the abuser. And whether that's cutting toxic people out of your life or, whatever version of that it is for a person, that's a very powerful moment in trauma therapy, in overcoming that. And I love, like, I again, I didn't see it, but that's what it feels like, the way that you guys are describing it. And that's so empowering, and that's so beautiful.
And that's supported by that very last moment with Mary Cat, when the boys, the whole movie, Mary Cat is terrified of the kids that make fun of her. Terrified. She shrinks and she walks like this. At the end of the movie, when the two boys start yelling and yelling and yelling, she throws open the locks and opens the door and stands there, and they run. So that kind of, she's taking the house back. She's taking the land back. So the house has a definite boundary role, that we have here. And I think it's a very interesting use. Of course, that's coming directly from the book writing, but it was used and they did it, and they show that scene right there.
And in
Speak to Courtney.
The architecture aspect of it as well. So being a big Second Empire mansion that I love, this is a Georgian mansion. This is an 18th century mansion. It's not the one in the book, but in the book, Uncle Jillian and the auntie, who's never named to my knowledge, they were staying in one of the guest suites, one of the guest rooms. And then after the poisoning, Uncle Julian had to take the morning room. And a morning room, it's the room off of the kitchen. It's where the family can gather. All of the rest of the rooms in a Victorian house are formal. Everything is formal. Everything is rigid. The doors are closed sensibly. The windows are latched sensibly. The drapes are pulled in a certain way. Everything is so rigid. But in the family room, which is right off of the kitchen, it's where you don't have to sit so straight up. You can lounge a little bit. And no one goes back there but family. But after Uncle Julian gets sick from arsenic poisoning, he can no longer go upstairs. So he can no longer be part of that group. But the girls, they still sleep in the same rooms. And ironically, father's room was different than mother's room. Because in those days, when those houses were built, husbands and wives did not sleep together. It was common. And so that yes, allowed for privacy, but it also allowed for a lot of other things, a lot of sort of close separation. So Uncle Julian was moved from the top floor down into the morning room. Uncle Julian dies, and now the girls move together into the family room where they can be comfortable.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that's not mentioned in the film, but it is in the book.
Interesting.
It's suggested in the book, and I had a question. I'm like, wait a minute. They said they can't go upstairs yet. There's a bedroom, but they didn't actually explicitly. That wasn't clear. So thank you for clearing that up. Mm-hmm. Now explain to me what that accent was the neighbor was doing that kept showing up.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know what accent that was.
I think it was supposed to be Boston or something. I don't know.
What I do think is funny, though, that also is something that is missed in the book. So the neighbor comes up with this friend, this companion, who shows up unannounced for tea. As she, the woman has been coming for years for tea on Wednesdays. Every week she comes to tea. Well, this time she brings her friend along, and at first, they played it all right. Uncle Julian comes in and he talks about the poisonings, all of these things. In the book, though, Mary Catherine goes in to get the sugar bowl, and she says to the woman that she doesn't like, she says, "Why are you here in my house?" She says, "Yes, they poisoned the sugar. Would you like some sugar?" And the woman's teacup, Shirley Jackson, she's like, "No, I think I'm fine. I think I've had enough." And that's when Uncle Julian comes in. That part was omitted, I guess, for timing issues. But it was, she talked about her hand sort of shaking and the clinking of the cup and then sort of pushing it away and then going off with Uncle Julian.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Well, does you want to see the rest of the movie now, Courtney?
When and if I'm in the right headspace, yes. I mean, I think I'm not in the right headspace right now, so I'm not mad that I didn't finish it, but at some point, yes, very much so.
On that, do we happen to have any quotes on this?
I do have one. Full disclosure, I pulled it from online. But let's see. It is the opening line, and it just felt kind of in line with my brain this week, so I'm going to read it. But it is the first lines in the movie, which is, "My name is Mary Catherine Blackwood. I am 18 years old, and I live with my sister Constance. She is the most precious person in the world. The Blackwoods have always lived in this house. We have never done anything to hurt anyone. We put things back where they belong, and we will never leave here, no matter what they say or what they do to us. Never. But a change is coming, and no one knows it but me."
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Any more to discuss? Are we moving? Do we have a Mankey moment? Is somebody filling in for Jason? Nobody's filling in for Jason. Okay. No Mankey maybe minute. No blonde locks. So I guess
I know this film, so I know this book so well, but I don't have a Mankey movie moment. I don't have one.
I think you're in the big square now, which means you're supposed. I'm pretty sure.
Right.
I think I heard
That's
production
right. Okay.
just say.
All right. Let
Wing
me put on my Jason Mankey. I wish I
put
had
on
some.
Jason.
Oh my God.
It's not golden locks. All right. Let me get into it. Okay. So, hi, I'm Jason Mankey. I wrote 10. I have paint on my hands. I wrote 10 books with 10 books. Anyway, so how do I write about a film that is so heavy? You know, we live in a dark time. There's a lot of things that are happening around in the world, and it really makes us so that we don't know what we're going to do or where we're going to go, and we feel that the world is oppressing us. And the one thing that ties us all together is that no matter what, we are all humans. There's one race, it's the human race. And whether we go back 2 days ago, whether we go back 50 years ago, to 100, to 1,000, however long it was, the one thing that binds us all is that we are human. And the human experience is different for everyone, but it doesn't mean that empathy should be. Film transports us to a different time and a different place, and it brings us together, and it gives you inspiration. And what I am inspired to do is to mind my own words, to mind how I approach, because I am guilty of being human just like everyone else. With that, we have always lived on Witches Movie Coven.
Nicely done. Nicely done, sir.
Richard Lale, that was beautiful, despite the ferns.
You know what? I think I took it more seriously because of you looked like you were in a bush. Like it would just. Spot on, man.
And like almost little golden locks from
Yeah.
the strings on that there was touches of Jason. There was touches of Jason. All right. So everybody, and this means thank you guys. We have been watching you guys in the chat room. Thank you for your comments. Now it is time to vote. Wands up or wands down, for we have always lived in the castle.
Mine is arsenic, and I hold my wand up.
We are unanimous wands up. Okay, let's see. That is rare for us, especially these days. Let's see what everybody in the chat room has to say. We'll go into killing trees. Oh,
You know, I almost said it, but I thought in my brain, Colin's got my back. He knows what I'm thinking, so
wand is way down. Robert's got a way down wand. Okay, yawn, appropriate horns. We got horns up, gold wand up. Okay, Robert, without having to explain, do you want to say why it's a super, super wands down? Was it just the heaviness of the movie or what? Anyway, just as valid as all of ours. Up, 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 wands up for a movie I did not watch. That's thankfully by the sound of it. Wands up for the movie and up. So up is definitely windy. The down is a very distinctive down. And what are we going to watch next week?
Brace yourselves, everybody, because it's time for Wicked 2.
Yay! We are going to lighten it up. Yay! Yay!
Why not? It's sort of the same topic. It's the second half. If this one had a second half, it would be, if there was a second one, it would be Wicked 2.
Okay, there we go. I haven't seen it yet, and I'm a big fan, so I finally get to watch it. I'm sure I will stay awake. So you guys, everybody go watch Wicked 2. Wands up, I love it. Did Robert did not watch it earlier? It sounds great. Okay, so it's a secret why Robert is. We have one wrong wands down, but he is an avid one of us, so we love you anyway, Robert. No hexing today because life's too scary to hex today.
Oh, well, that's not true, actually. There has been some hexing, maybe not today, but I have done a freezer spell within the last several days, very violently with spit involved, for things that may or may not belong in a freezer that have been put back in a freezer. So very violently.
Not towards any of us, though.
No, just I used up all my hexing anger, so there's none of it for this movie, but because I used up all that energy already. So everyone in the comments is safe whether they agree or disagree. I don't have the energy for it this week because I put all that energy into a freezer spell. So
okay, good for you. Again, yes, there's so much other to worry about these days. And what we are doing, and we are being very good. And that's it. We have 3 minutes left. So I think it is, I have Peacock so I could watch Wicked 2. Haven't seen it yet. I don't know where I'm going to watch it, but I'll watch it. It must be everywhere. I know we check those things out. So
I have something to promote.
Oh, that's what I knew. You guys, sleeping at 3 in the morning. I am not brushed my hair today. I forgot what we're doing. So what do we have to promote? Go, Courtney.
Well, as everyone knows, I work for a tour company in Salem. And as everyone else knows, love sucks and Valentine's Day is stupid. So I wrote the anti-Valentine's Day tour along with, some other fine folks at Salem Night Tour. And we are presenting it this year on the trolley. So you can come and visit us. If you go to salemghosttours.com, you can look up tickets. But just to give you the little rundown, it is back and more bitter than ever because this is not our first year doing this. The Anti-Valentine's Day Tour, the only after dark trolley ride exploring romance gone wrong in Salem's twisted history. It returns gothier, gloomier, and laugh your guts out funnier. Come be miserable with us during the first 2 weeks of February, whether you're on a solo date, trying to impress your new ghoul friend, unhappily married, or having a single witches night out. It is the perfect pity party. You will begin your evening in the Halloween Museum gift shop, ideal for spooky photo ops, pre-gaming with hot chocolates, and glaring at other guests, which is my favorite part. Then your glamorous guides will arrive to invite you aboard a Salem trolley decked out for the occasion. From there, just sit back, relax, and enjoy tales of love gone way, way wrong as you explore the historic districts of Witch City in style. This event does sell out every year, so get those tickets. Again, salemghosttours.com. And it's the perfect night out for couples, singles, exes, thruples, divorcees, friends with benefits, friends without benefits, and hockey rivals with sizzling hot romantic tension. So enjoy and come check us out. And if you do decide to check us out, you may see me down there causing all kinds of trouble and making horrible jokes about how love is stupid. And you can come and help me make fun of it. And be careful when choosing your ticket. Look very carefully and make your decision very wisely because you may or may not be called out for that. So just keep that in mind. That's my favorite part.
Thank you very much. Okay. Anybody else have anything coming up that they want to talk about this next week?
I'll just jump in real quick. And before I mention, I know we're running late here, but I just want to mention somebody asked about Sinners winning the Oscars. We are going to be doing a special Oscar episode. You can see on March 11th. So we'll talk about our favorites and our worst and our all of that stuff on March 11th. So that's our special show. We'll definitely rock in our hopes for Sinners, of course. At least that's my opinion. But I am going to be at Sacred Space and Between the Worlds in Maryland. I can't remember the exact dates. I think it's mid-February around President's Day weekend. And I'll also say that Jason's going to be at Convocation the same weekend, two of the biggest pagan witchy events of the year. And then Patty and Jason and I will be in March around the equinox all together at Paganacon, another one of the biggest indoor conferences. So we'll post dates and everything. Go to our socials to see the specifics of all of that.
Yes. Thank you. Anybody?
Also, super quick, just in the chat, everybody talking about Sinners. Sinners, some movie theaters have Sinners back in the movie theaters right now because it is Oscar season. So go see it the way that it was intended in the movie theater. It's the next best thing seen in IMAX. So go check it out. Don't miss it.
Don't miss it.
If anybody's near Hanover, Virginia this weekend, there's Hanover Paracon, beautiful old hundreds of year old historic place, lots of some mediumship gallery, ghost tours, amazing people and vendors. That's this weekend. Next weekend, join me in the Bay Area at the Winchester Mystery House, where we are going to be predicting the Super Bowl. I keep saying Yankees, they're not going to win. I don't know. I'm the first person to pick that. I'm doing all these news shows, so Bay Area for next week. And again, I'm so excited to moving into the pagan arena with Heather and Jason versus all my ghosty stuff. I'm very happy. Very happy. Anybody else got anything coming up? February, anti-Valentine's Day ball, Vampire Ball, also anti-Valentine's Day. It's Sunday the 15th in Los Angeles at the Belasco. Put on your finest cloaks, capes, top hats, corsets, and hoop skirts, and join us at our anti-Valentine's Day. So that's it. And thank you, Jenny. Thank you for joining in, and lovely to have you. And thank you, everybody. We have one more thing to do, and I guess it's time to cackle. 1, 2, 3. Yay!